So I definitely needed the time to just be on my own. But if I was going to speak, I was going to speak here with you today on Call Her Daddy. And
But let's not forget, in order for her to speak anywhere, let alone call her daddy, the producers of the show have to give permission. She is still under a 1-year contract from the end of the air date of her season, which was just a few months ago. So I don't know how this is happening. The producers had to allow this. They had to think this was a good idea. Is this evidence that they are changing their minds about the lockdown that they usually impose on all players coming off the show?
And
Especially one, by the way, who had the crown and refused the crown.
Why did you always want to be on The Bachelor?
I love the show.
Okay.
I love the show. I was such a huge fan. And I had friends on the show. And they
did?
Yeah.
Wait, I feel like that's tea.
Now, this is really something that happens with a lot of professional players these days. They have friends that are in the show who can coach them through. We've heard this time and time again. Ashley Iaconetti got Sydney on. Technically, Tyler Cameron helped to coach Matt James, who became a Bachelor, obviously. This happens all the time.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to say. I feel like there's been,
Say
people
it all.
have talked about it, and I'm sure people know who. But yeah, I've had people that have been on the show that have always said that, like, I see you on it. And yeah, and so I was like, I'm going to apply.
So are you insinuating you've like romantically dabbled with people on the show?
Oh.
I wouldn't say romantic, but
Okay.
obviously there was like, I don't know what you want to call it, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
It was just like a good thing going. And yeah, and I just remember talking to him about it. And
Who?
he was like, I can totally see you. You know what he said to me, actually?
Should I be asking you like who you're talking
Yes.
about?
No, you shouldn't. Do you want me to say it?
Yes.
I think I have to ask.
Well, I mean, I think it's been fairly obvious, and honestly, I'm so over the rumors and stuff like that. So Nick, oh fuck, but is this bad? Because he's like totally married.
No, I
Nick.
think that's it's not you're saying you're like in love with this person.
Yeah, nothing has ever happened between Nick and I, but like it's
Nick who?
always been like a friendship.
Okay. But this no, I think this is fine to say. Nick is one of the biggest
Yeah.
people from the franchise.
Yeah.
And
Are they talking about Vial?
the fact that like you had like a little thing with him back in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
But you
What?
never hooked up.
No.
You just had like a flirtatious banter.
Literally, that is all. Like, he helped me through breakups. Like,
Okay.
he was
Oh
a
my
good friend to me
God.
at points, and it was great. But I remember, and I never really understood it until actually being on the show.
This has
he
to be
had said
Vial
to
they're
me, he's
talking
like, I can see you being the villain. He's like, you're gonna go on, you're gonna be the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why? Why me? Like, I would never go with the intention of becoming a villain. I didn't go in there trying to piss people.
Because he knows. This is the same thing when I'm coaching players and they're like, I want to go in the show and I'll have a great time. And all of a sudden I'm like, you're going to be the villain. They're going to make you a villain. You can just tell. And she has that vibe too, for sure.
people off. But I remember him saying, he's like, people are going to come after you. No matter what, I can just see it. You're going to be the villain. And it was just funny because after I finished filming, there was rumors about me being a villain. I'm like, but I wasn't. I know what happened.
Well, I feel like just to sum it up
But that doesn't matter. It's about the edit. They make you the villain if they want you to be the villain.
again for anyone
Yeah.
that didn't watch, like I feel like people tried really, 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 really fucking hard to make you the villain.
Yeah.
And then everyone in America watching it was like, no. Like, no, she's
Yeah.
not the villain, actually. Like,
Yeah.
these girls that are basically gaslighting Maria are the villain. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. I love
Okay.
how you were just like dropping bombs left
Yeah,
and right.
yeah,
Okay.
please.
But I think it's fine to say the Nick Vial thing. I think he's like
So it
happily
is Vial!
married
yeah,
now.
he is.
And that's great.
Yeah, and I think
everyone has a past.
And I just want everyone to know that like there's no animosity between us. Like I think we have always
So it's interesting. They're saying, I think he's happily married now. He was just married this past weekend. So either they had prior knowledge that he was going to be married, if they recorded this prior to the wedding and they are pretending as though this is the real time recording this is occurring after the wedding, or this was recorded literally within the past 2 or 3 days.
been friends, obviously, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's always been great to me, and like I respect his relationship. I respect where he is now. I'm happy to see him grow. But yeah, to say that we didn't have a past, that would be a lie. So like I
Oh
just
my
hate this.
God.
Like it's been all over Reddit. I just want people to know that like it's nothing serious.
Yeah.
But also we respected each other along the way, and I'm happy where he's at now, and I congratulate him.
You are one of the most popular, I would say, Bachelor contestants in the history of ever. And you just like brought this energy to it, this relatability.
I don't know if that's right. Most popular ever, you have to take a lot into account there. You're talking about seasons that have had, in terms of like raw viewership, 10 times what Bachelor season 28 brought in. Season 28 was a highlight within the contemporary Bachelor nation. Its ratings did see a nice spike. It seems that, you know, it has worked out better than many recent seasons. But if you're comparing this to like people who came off of like Sean Lowe's season 17, anything back in that era, even season 1, season 2, season 3, these were gigantic shows that were getting 15 million viewers. Now you're lucky if you can get 3.5. So most popular, I don't know what that metric is. Most popular of this season, yes. Most popular of all time, I don't know. Even if you're looking at Instagram numbers, she hasn't even cracked 1 million yet. She's not in the million club. So I don't know if that's accurate to say.
You were normal. I think people could be like, see themselves being friends with you. You're a girl's girl. Like, it was great vibes. How did you feel about all this attention?
Oh my God. First of all, thank you for saying that. Like, that meant a lot, because I was actually talking about this with my friends. Like, when I had first come back home, I had to sit my family down to let them know like what kind of like stupidity I went through in the house. I did not know how it was gonna like play out and like how people were gonna perceive me, because in the house I felt like I was so wrongfully accused of things, and people were just like taking me the wrong way. And so I didn't know how things were gonna play out. The fact that it was an honest edit, I can say, and like showed exactly who I am. And I said to myself, I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this like exactly who I am. I'm not going on there with some alter ego. Like, no. I'm gonna, when my friends and family are gonna watch, they're gonna be like, that's my Maria.
You're seeing Nick Viall like tell you you're gonna potentially be the villain.
Yes.
Then you're seeing Nick Viall be friends with the girl that attacked you the whole season.
Okay, keep this shit in, because you know what? I'm not kidding. This was my exact thought process. I was like, there's something weird about all this, because it was too close to this, like it was too close to home. I was like, this what was said, and now this and this. Because if there was a moment in the house where I can say, okay, I deserve that, I would say I would not even begin to think about this. But I was so innocent.
Here's the thing. I don't think Nick Viall produced this rivalry in Bachelor season 28. I don't think he has that much power within the actual franchise. He certainly has a lot of power in the peripheral world on his podcast and stuff. And he, you know, tries to know all these up and coming people that are coming through the game so that they'll come on his podcast. But I don't think that he's calling up producers and being like, I've got this rivalry that I'm cooking up with these two players and I'm going to send them both in. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
She's literally saying you're like the devil.
Oh, yeah. It was funny. I brought devil ears because I knew we were going to be filming during Halloween. And I wore the devil ears like for a week straight. They cut that out, so maybe we don't talk about that. But like, I loved it. I was like, because they told me, they're like, yeah, you know, she sees you as the devil. I'm like,
amazing.
And in parts, I was like, wait.
That's interesting. So they never put that in the show. And I mean, that's a great costume to bring in. It's great antics. And they cut it out of the show, which means they were trying to give her a little bit of a hero edit. They were trying to save her there. If you're wearing devil horns or devil ears, as she says, definitely that's a villain edit. And because they didn't put that footage in the show, they certainly were trying to save her, which we know then was going to lead to them tapping her to be Bachelorette. And she did it for a couple of days, supposedly. Hopefully they'll talk about that. And then she refused it.
She had apologized to me there and then I was like, listen, you overheard something. You took it out of context. It wasn't meant maliciously. Next time, you know, come to me. She's like, absolutely. We cheersed. The next day we had that group date where we were doing the talent show. And she hugged me before the group date. And she was like, Maria, I just want to say again, I'm sorry for taking something out of context. It wasn't shown. We never even got to talk about this. And so I was like, wow, okay, you know what? And I said to her that day, I go, listen, I'm good to hug it out and like, we're good. But just, you scare me a little bit, because we were so good up until the point where you're starting shit with me where I'm like, where is this coming from? So we hugged.
This is pretty wild that she's just doing, I mean, multiple edit contradictions here already, saying she squashed the beef with Sydney. They never showed that, obviously, because they had to keep that rivalry going in the narrative. She had these devil horns on. They never showed that. So not only are the producers allowing her to go on Call Her Daddy way before her year expiration on the contract, they also, I guess, are allowing her to contradict the edit. They can sue her for this. It is breaking the contract for sure. This is a contract violation to say these things. But will they? Probably not. I can only imagine that this is a sign of good things to come in Bachelor Nation, that they're allowing their players to go out and essentially talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff.
And I just knew Joey and I were never going to be endgame. Yes, could I have made it further? Sure, 100%. Like, we had that connection. I just didn't think I was going to be endgame, and he was going to be endgame for me. And so I told Jen that day that I was going to use that as an excuse to leave Joey.
Use what? That she
The
kissed
kiss.
him?
This is tea. This is tea, bitch.
Well, that's gameplay. It's just as The Bachelor is looking, basically the Bachelor's job, or the lead, Bachelor or Bachelorette, their entire job is to eliminate 30-ish people in a row and not look bad doing it. Most Bachelors and Bachelorettes know exactly who is going to be their top 3 on night 1. And so the rest of the show is just them finding justifiable reasons to kick people off in a certain order. That's usually determined by the producers. And so here we're seeing that as a rookie in Joey's season, she was also trying to strategize about how to have a justifiable exit from the show. Interesting.
Wait, walk me through what you're talking.
That move that she's doing is the move of a lead. That's why she would have made a great Bachelorette, or at least, among the reasons, I should say.
Were you offered the role as Bachelorette?
Yes.
Obviously, I have been trying my hardest to stay silent about this, but I think that moving forward, and if I'm going to be in this world, like, I have to be honest, especially with the people.
Gonna be in this world? What world? What world? The Bachelor world? Is she going to have a more significant role later on? Is she potentially going to be Bachelorette next year? That's just so dicey. If you don't take the crown when it's offered, your chances of getting it in a subsequent year are almost zero. You are looking at people like Claire Crawley maybe has done this. Tayshia Adams maybe, although I don't think she was ever offered it. She might have been on the short list coming out of Colton's season 23, but extreme circumstances had to arise for her to come in and be the replacement Bachelorette in Bachelorette season 16, the fractured season. So we'll see what she says here. I'm sorry.
People who have supported me, and the answer is yes. Yeah, I was offered the role. I mean, it was mine until I said it wasn't, and yeah, it became very overwhelming to the point where I had to decline.
How far along were you in the process of like becoming the Bachelorette until
2
you
days.
pulled out?
We know this
Yeah,
already.
well, to the point where I was doing fittings. Like, it was set in stone. I was in it.
Yeah.
Again, like, bringing up Jen and all of this, like, she was one of my closest girls in the house, and she was always verbalizing how badly she wanted this. And when everyone around me was so supportive of me being in this position and everyone wanted this for me, I kind of took a second. I'm like, why am I not happy? Why?
It's fascinating too. You have to keep in mind again, producers are allowing her to say this on this show. That's drastically different than anything we've ever seen in the history of Bachelor, really, ever. And I'm very curious as to why they're allowing this. They're either cutting her loose completely, but if they were going to do that, they wouldn't let her come on this show and say this. If they had no plans for her in the future or didn't want to have a good relationship with her still, they wouldn't let her do this. I don't really know why this is happening, other than they must have some plans for her, and maybe it's paradise, although it doesn't look like paradise is happening this year, so it would be paradise next year.
Why am I not excited about this? And it took me like realizing that it's just not my time, where I was like, guys, respectfully, I need to decline. I need to take a step back. I was not in the right headspace for this, especially knowing that, like, because I know the extensive process it was to be on the show, right? So having a bunch of guys do the exact same thing and they're there for me, I didn't want to waste anyone's time. And honestly, like, yeah, it was hard for me to kind of jump right back into it, honestly.
I think I can be honest. Like,
yeah,
you were about to come on the show and we were going to announce you as the Bachelorette.
Yeah.
What, like a month ago?
Wow.
And that, I remember I was going to have you on like a Monday and on like Sunday.
So, okay, so we're getting a little inside information here. If that was going to be the pipeline, if they were going to allow the Bachelorette announcement to happen on Call Her Daddy, that means Call Her Daddy is very plugged in with the producers too. So Call Her Daddy has now essentially usurped Bachelor Happy Hour as the Bachelor podcast of record. That's what I'm learning right here. That's fascinating and extremely important. Somehow Call Her Daddy has come from outside the Bachelor world to be the preeminent Bachelor podcast, who's now not only getting Bachelorette announcements, but is now getting the Bachelorette who refused the crown to come on and do a tell-all while she's still under contract with Bachelor. Fascinating.
I get the call. Like, Maria went back to Toronto.
Yeah.
What were those like next few days like once you turned it down?
Yeah, no, the one thing about having such a great like production behind you, and like my producers were so supportive of me, and like just being open and honest of where I was mentally and how I felt about everything, you know, like everyone was so excited, and I know what this season could have been like, and it would have been great. I just was not ready. And, you know, coming back home, when I say that I just wanted to come back home, back to reality, and just take time off from all of this, like I meant it. And I think people saw that and recognized that I wasn't posting as much, and like I was not speaking on things, because as much as like I wanted my time off, but I also wanted Jen to have her moment. And like she is the most perfect Bachelorette in my eyes. If like I couldn't think of anyone better to do this. And she was so ready for it, and that was enough for me to kind of say, yeah, it's not my time. I remember Wells, he was like, I don't know, he did the bartending on so he went out on a podcast, and he was saying that I had all these expectations, that I had all these I don't know, whatever the
like
hell
requirements and asks.
Yes. And that one was, I wanted my phone the entire time, and I wanted my friend to be a producer. And it's like I wanted so badly to shut that shit down. But again, I just didn't think it was my time or my place. But like, and he was like, oh, everyone's going to forget about her and Daisy. Like this is going to be their biggest regret.
That?
Forget about me. Like I am so, at the end of the day, I have to do what's best for me. And if that's what, like, it was so disheartening to hear someone who knows this process, knows what they put us through, like not what they put us through, but like knows like how like intense it is. And like you have to be fully committed, like knows like how mentally draining and like physically draining this could be, to like say something like that. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Literally shut the fuck up.
Like,
yes. Thank you, Maria. I mean, Wells Adams is, say what you will about him. Some people like him, some people don't. Wells Adams has been clinging to this franchise like a barnacle since the time he was on it. And he views himself, at least through what he said on various podcasts, as kind of a producerial figure in it, a creative voice in The Bachelor who has helped shape Bachelor in Paradise into what it has become, which right now is a dumpster fire that looks very likely to not be renewed for a season 10. Perhaps because of Wells' involvement. His comedy bits don't go over that well, generally speaking.
Like he's been in this franchise for so long.
Right.
It's like, did you ask Maria if those were her requests?
Right.
Did you hear it through the grapevine? Because if those weren't your
Broken
requests,
telephone.
right? Like, don't speak on shit that you don't know about,
Yeah.
and also not to be a dick. But it seems like I'm sure Wells would have loved to be the Bachelor back in
That's
his
what
day.
I'm saying.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. But here's the thing, you know, it's kind of like contradicting for you to say I'm going to be forgotten because I'm not Bachelor, but then where do you stand? You were never Bachelor.
Right.
So are you forgotten?
Are we going to see you in Bachelor in Paradise?
No Paradise. No.
No Paradise.
No.
Okay, so how are you approaching your dating life right now?
The way she said that, no Paradise, wasn't, no, I don't want to do Paradise. It was, Paradise isn't happening, in my opinion.
You know, I just want to meet someone organic.
But even if it is happening and she's saying, no, I'm not going to do Paradise, that's a bad look for Paradise, that you've got a superstar coming out of a recent season saying like, no, I don't want to do Paradise. There used to be a time where when you came out of a recent season, if you were a big star, absolutely you're fucking doing Paradise. Now you've got this. That was Maria Georgas on Call Her Daddy. An outstanding appearance. We learned so much here that she was slated to come on Call Her Daddy to announce her Bachelorette crown, and that never happened. That to me was kind of like the bombshell of this episode, is that Call Her Daddy is now the official Bachelor Nation podcast of record. Some wild stuff was said. In the end here, Maria is telling us she wants to be seen more, meaning she's going to be on reality TV again. We'll have to wait and see what that's going to look like, but I can't wait for it. Thank you for joining me.